Okay, so we're on. Yeah, all live. All right, how's it, guys? Hello, hello. My name's DrWeez. Thanks for tuning in. Very quickly, it's time to build the all-in-one machine. So today, that's definitely what's going to happen. I've been talking about it for way too long now, and well, the time has come. It's time to be done. I'm not using the hardware that I really wanted to use. I really wanted to make this into an X299 build, but I really am struggling to find a low profile cooler for X299. So I'm having to settle for an older motherboard, an older processor, but it's still packing all the punch that I need for this build. Let's quickly go through some of the ground foundations for the stream. I do stream live on Twitch, Facebook and YouTube all at the same time, so it's going out to the 3 different platforms. I do like to interact with you guys watching this channel, so please jump onto the Twitch chat and ask any questions you might have. Stop by and say hello. Always nice to interact with everybody. So let's quickly switch over and do a quick introduction to the hardware and to the platform that I'm building. Give me a moment here. Now I need to just switch over to the OC, to the bench. Right, so the OC lab is a bit of a disaster area at the moment, so it's like having to move chairs and stuff to get into everywhere. Right, so I've got out of the box 32-inch 2K all-in-one case and screen. Right, so I did a quick intro about this. You should find it on the archives if you want to get some more information about it. It's a case that's imported into South Africa by one of my friends, my good name, my well friends, and yeah, so I'm going to be selling this case as an all-in-one machine coming up in the future. So it's just really, this is my first prototype build, and it's quite nice. It takes a full power supply, supports a video card up to the length of 268 millimeters, and it's got a 2K screen plus all-in-one small footprint on the desk. So what I'm going to do today is, I've already got the SSD installed, but we're going to go ahead and get the power supply in. We're going to get the motherboard in. I've decided I want to change the fan that it comes with, purely because it comes with the old Molex connector, and I want to try and minimize the footprint of a number of cables in here. The plan for this is to be a really strong, neat little machine, and well, let's see how we go. So the hardware that we're going to be using today is the Maximus 8 Genie. Alright, so it's a board that you guys all should be familiar with. It's a Z170. I'm using onboard graphics for the short term because I haven't got a spare video card to slot in at the moment. So it does support 4K ultra resolution using the onboard. So we're just going to be running a 2K for the short term. Plugged into the board is a 6700 Core i7 Intel, obviously. And the reason why for choosing that board and processor combination is because I've had it sitting in the OC lab since GOC 2 years ago. So it was a board that we used for the Z170. I used the Genie when I went to China, and well, I've had this one sitting collecting dust ever since then. It was my spare board. So on that as well, I've got a low profile cooler master, just a straight simple 2 heat pipe design. When comparing this to the standard sort of like Intel cooler, you get about a 20-degree difference. So it's a small little investment needed just for a little bit of a performance increase. Eventually I want to run M.2 drive in here, or maybe put an Intel Octane. The thing is this is not going to be the final chipset for this build. This is just the initial build because I'm off to Cape Town for a week. I need to at least get this machine up and running, get some shots of it, and get some content for the website we're trying to launch. So first thing I'm going to do is, like I said, I wanted to try and I want to replace this fan with something that either runs quieter or runs at a higher performance. I'm not too sure of this factory fitted fan of what the performance is, so instead of chancing it and maybe getting stuck with callbacks, I'm replacing it straight away. So it's quite simple, 2 screws and off it can come. The other thing is as well, I want to get rid of the Molex connectors. I'm not too terribly a fan of the old 10,000 cables in the case design. So let's just quickly jump over to the chat and see if anybody is saying hello, and where have I put it? And here we go. Okay, on Twitch now. Thanks for tuning in there, bud. I'm not even going to try and pronounce your name, so you can just know that I'm saying hello. N-A-J Ryan. It could be pronounced in many ways, and I will get it wrong, so instead of making an ass of myself, I'll just say hello. Right, so thanks for tuning in. Don't be shy. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. So I have got two options for replacing this fan, and what I was looking at is in my box of tricks over here. I've got an old Be Quiet shadowing, which is quite nice. This fan does run quiet. I've had it sitting for a long time. I haven't used it. The only drawback to this is it is a low speed fan, so you might not get as much air out of the system as you need. But this design of the case, and if you have a look quickly, I'll bring the shroud back again. If you have a look at the back of the shroud here, this is all open. So the amount of air you're needing to move against natural airflow is quite low. So it's not a major problem. I'm quite happy to put maybe a low speed fan in there just to get that that air movement. Yeah, it might be a bit of a trial and error scenario. So the other choice I had was the Master Fan Pro RGB, but because it's all in one, and theoretically it's behind the screen, you're never going to see it. So the RGB might actually add a nice glow effect. So here again, a little bit of trial and error. I think we might end up, for the production model, go with the RGB. And then also maybe with some sort of aftermarket RGB lighting effect, and it really can give you a nice little glow. But that's still very much under prototype thinking at the moment. So let's go ahead. Let's just put the Be Quiet fan in. Now what's nice about these Be Quiet fans is the installation is done with no screws, so it's all push fittings. And if you haven't seen this before, and unfortunately they're not available in South Africa, they used to be imported by a company in Durban who stopped importing them, and I haven't seen anybody else stocking the Be Quiet range in South Africa since then. That's a good couple of years ago. So let's just bring up the screen so I can see what you're seeing. Right, so if we have a look at the fan, you'll notice it's got these like rubber grommets. I don't know if you can see it so nicely there, but essentially you don't use a screw to affix these fans to the housing. It's got little push-in rods that you then affix it, and then just push the rods through. So that also helps with vibration quite considerably. And what I want to do is just get the orientation of the fan to where I'm going to be doing cable management, and maybe go that way around, because the PSU cables are going to be coming out here. So I think it'll be better sort of in that sort of area, and then we'll just go ahead and push the grommets in. So it's quite an easy installation. It's just one piece of rubber, and then push it through. It's not such an easy uninstallation. While the rubber's still quite flexible now, it's quite easy to remove. But if you try and uninstall this fan, so after a couple of months, you've got to be quite gentle with these, how you say, plastic pins, because they do tend to snap off when you try and uninstall it. So you've got to be quite gentle. It can be done, and I have done it before. And again, not a stock item in South Africa, so you break a plastic pin, you get one spare with the fan. If you break two, then having to make a MacGyver to get it installed in a second case or something like that. Or unless you have a friend who can machine you one, you're going to be having a bad time. So that's only, I suppose, it's a positive with the fan and a negative about the fan. Right, so let's get back to the chat. Right, after this, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to leave this off or loose, purely because when we install the motherboard it might be easier to do without the actual fan installed. So I'm just going to put that one place. The next thing I'm going to do is get this power supply in. Now I'm using the Seasonic Snow Silent. These are the same power supplies we used at the HW World Tour in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason I selected this power supply is because it is one that I have here in the lab that is not allocated to a job at the moment. So we can go for it. The 750 watts is nice. It gives us lots and lots of headroom, so we can put any size video card in as long as it makes the restriction. We're not going to be limited by the power delivery on this case at all. The only thing we might be limited by, or we are limited by, is by the amount of space we have in here. So we're not going to be running 4 video cards or anything like that. A smaller power supply you could probably get away with, but you don't want to skimp on quality, if you know what I mean. I'd rather have more power than less power. So the power supply is just held in with 4 screws. I just need to find 4 screws quickly. And that would be that. Okay, so I've got the wrong size screws. Excuse me. I need to find my screw container. So what I've got here in the OC lab is every time you build a machine, you get a couple of extra screws, or a bag full of screws. You'd only use 50% of them. So over the years I've collected a little tub, which is chock-a-block of the right type of screws you need. We need the coarse thread screws for the Seasonic power supply, and you don't have to really worry too much about the color of the screw or getting 4 of the identical heads, because it is covered by the shroud. Ultimately though, you would wanting to keep things all the same sort of screw head, so you can use the one with like the hex on it, or you can use the button head. I'm not terribly concerned right now. So the main thing is we want to get this machine built and on display. We've got to take a couple of photographs, so it's now really just getting up and running. It's no good taking photographs of a black screen, right? And when you're doing demos and stuff like that, you need to actually have something in there. So as I said before, the SSD is already installed. I've got a 512 gig Galax SSD in there. Again, the reason why I chose that SSD for the short term is because it's what I had in the OC lab here that's not in use. Essentially, I want an NVMe drive in here, and that'll either be in the form of an M.2 or a 2.5 inch, or maybe even both. It all depends on the motherboard, the platform. You don't have a lot of space in this case to have multiple drives, or 5 SSDs or anything like that. So you have to really take advantage of what is provided on the motherboard. So if you've got 2 M.2 slots, you're wanting to maximize that with M.2 obviously. So the next thing we're going to get done is install the motherboard. Now this case, because of its all-in-one design, you can't just slot the cards in like you would on a normal case. It comes with a little riser board. It's a little 16x riser board, so this will then transfer your 16x slot from being a horizontal to a vertical, or whatever orientation you want to leave it in. So that's this little job, and there you can see the 16x riser board. How much of a performance hit this board has on the machine, I can't tell you exactly, but it shouldn't be a hell of a lot. As far as all-in-ones are concerned, when you're running a full-blown 1080 Ti, for instance, versus a mobile 1080 Ti, which you'd get in the regular type of all-in-ones. You know, dropping 5 frames is not going to be that crucial for you, where you would have normally dropped, say, 100 frames on the mobile chip, or whatever the case might be. So I'm not terribly concerned about that. What I just need quickly is the back plate, and I suppose we will need a SATA cable as well. Alright, so we install the back plate, and then we can get the board in. So because it's a Genie, we do have a little bit extra room, so we've got a little bit of extra space down the bottom here. What I need to do is just move some of these standoffs into the M80X position. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 in total. Hey Timo, thanks for tuning in. How are things going? Alright, so I'm looking for 8 screws. What we'll test before we go ahead and try and commit to the motherboard is I've got one of the standoffs separate here, and we'll just check that thread. So it looks like a fine thread, so that is the same sort of screw you'd use to put your SSD in. Straightforward. Alright, so let's just open up the chat. Okay, so it is the same screw that you'd use to fasten your SSD in, for instance. It's a fine thread screw, and we'll be needing 3, 6, 7, 8 of them, right? Now when fastening a motherboard, depending on your backplate and your manufacturer and stuff like that, you might have problems with little flaps over your USBs and stuff like that. It's always a good thing just to make sure that once you've got it in place, have a look from the back, make sure you don't have any little pieces of metal sticking over the port, because once you've got it screwed in and you put the machine on for the first time and you want to plug your mouse in, and there's a little metal flap there, you have to disassemble the whole rig just to get that piece of metal out. It sounds like I might have made that mistake before. I have. Alrighty, so the good news is I can smell banana bread. Unlucky for all of you who are all over the world, you will not be able to partake in the banana bread that's just been baked, but I will. It makes me happy. Okay, motherboard is secure. So, cable management in such a small case is a pain in a body part that I do not want to mention. The only bit of advice is be patient, have as few cables as possible, So, and then think about your cable routes. So although the ATX 24-pin ATX power is here, you know, have a look at the length of cable that you're supplied with now. I don't know if it's possible to get shorter versions from Seasonic. I know with sort of like with Corsair and stuff like that, or maybe you can do some custom sleeving or something, or maybe custom connections, but either box or full retail, I'm not terribly sure. So it really does require a little bit of finesse, a little bit of PT. There's a few things you've got to take into consideration as well as your airflow. So if we put the 24 pin here, then we're going to be thinking about, alright, okay, we've got a fan coming over the top here. So if that one comes in, now what's that cable going to do to our airflow here? It's not so fantastic. So maybe what we need to do is run that through the length and sort of try and get it to sit down a bit. But we're not going to really have much success there. What we actually need is a cable tie. And I see there is a cable tie point there, so we could maybe cable tie that one down. Now let me get the cable ties and do that as we're speaking, because with a small design, with a small case like this where you've got no space, you need to do your cable management each step of the way. You can't leave it until the end like you'd normally do with a build. So if we get that and we secure it down in that position, we should be alright. So we just get it there, we'll tighten that one up, and we'll do exactly the same for there. Okay, so a little simple. Let's get some shears. Okay. Okay, so we've got some shears there. Now, I just realized something with this all-in-one case. I plan on using the onboard. I plan on using onboard VGA. Now, the HDMI cable for the display is here where we're working, but the onboard is here. So it looks like you might not be able to use onboard. I'm going to have to get an HDMI extender that's going to have to route through and out and plug it into the bottom. Okay, that's interesting. I never even thought about that before right now when I saw that there. So discrete VGA would be the first place prize. Ultimately, the reason why you're going for this type of all-in-one machine is because you want to have the raw power enclosed in a small package with a small footprint. So having a discrete VGA is the reason for having this case. But at the same time, you need to have the flexibility to use something such as onboard, I should imagine. Anyway, I'm rambling. Okay, so we've got the motherboard installed, we've got some cable management sorted out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the extender back in so that we can manage the rest of that. So it is just like plugging in a video card. Number one rule with anything in computers, you never have to force anything, it should just slide in. Alright, don't be using too much elbow grease. So depending on the motherboard, excuse me, this bracket that I've just affixed now can move this way and that way. There are multiple holes and multiple mounting brackets, so it can support a video card that's got, a motherboard that's slightly bigger than the one we're installing. That I at least know that is that functionality. Alright, so so as far as discrete VGA is concerned, I could always have a look at, on my desk right now as we speak, I've got a MSI RX 470. This has come in from a client. The reason being is this fan is well, shot. So this now, there's no physical damage. I've done an inspection of the card. The video card looks fine. The BIOS is default. So this one is going into the manufacturer on Monday for for RMA, but for the purposes of this video, I suppose we could always borrow the card and do an installation so that we can see how it all fits together. So maybe I should just switch it onto its side so I can see properly what's going on there. So it only supports a dual slot cooler. From what I can see here, it only has space for 2. But that's basically your discrete video card installation. Unfortunately though, you're not going to be able to get in, say, another PCI Express network card or anything like that. There's only one slot on the riser. It is only for your PCI Express 16, so for your video card ultimately. Other than that, there is an open bracket at the bottom there. You could maybe MacGyver something if you need be, but ultimately you want to get a motherboard that's got everything on board that you're going to need. So if you need dual network card, get a motherboard with dual network. If you need Wi-Fi, get a motherboard with Wi-Fi on it. You know, that's the secret to this type of all-in-one build. You want the flexibility on the motherboard and then the power from your discrete VGA. Let's get a screw in there just to secure it. Right, so that's a good question. The panel does come with a case, and the manufacturer does have options for 120 Hz and 144 Hz. The problem being is 144 Hz you need to have DVR, and the other problem is import costs. So we've only imported the one range. We haven't imported the full range. So depending on the interest, you know, the biggest problem we have is that you're competing with the Lenovo's and the who else does all-in-ones? Lenovo, Dell, all these other major manufacturers. You're basically competing with all of them. And if you're wanting, typically, in my opinion, if you're wanting a high Hertz monitor, you're not going to go for an all-in-one package. You're going to go for a case and a monitor and everything's all separately, right? So, so having the option, is it really the target market for this machine? Probably not, but maybe is. There again, it's a little bit of market research we have to do in South Africa at least, but for the rest of the world, I'm not terribly sure. But they do have options there. They do have options. Yeah, so the main target market, so let me give you a little background of where we're going, or where I see my target market for this machine. And it's aimed sort of at maybe the stockbroker, the animator, the CAD designer. So you're wanting to have as much CPU power as possible, along with as much GPU power as possible, raw GPU power, but with the smallest possible footprint. And you'll be surprised at how many people really don't want to worry and fuss about having a machine that's water cooled and is all nice and fancy. Yeah, but at the same time they also want to have more than what they can get from the Dells and Lenovo's and sort of all that sort of stock stuff. So they want to be able to customize, but they also want to retain that footprint. So I'm just going to connect up the panels, and we've got the power switch. And now this, let me turn the light on so I can actually see. We've got the reset and power LED power switch at the back. So speaker. Let me change the orientation. So the idea here now is really for the flexibility, which is a norm on a platform that's normally quite constrained. If that makes any sense. So the X299, the board I wanted to use was the Apex, and it fits in here even though the platform doesn't officially support X299. So that would have given me, you know, plenty of memory options. The problem I had was finding a all-in-one or cooler small enough for that platform. Now Cooler Master have released a new cooler which supports X299 that fits in the space, but of course once again we suffer from the normal South African problem that it's not available in this country. And I never made it to Computex this year, so I couldn't fetch or go pick up a sample to in the computer market to bring back and try. So we just make do with what we got. Now why on earth did I plug the reset switch in on the power LED? What an idiot. Anyway. So the easier thing to do would have been to use the quick connect, and I don't know why I didn't bother this time. I like those quick connects. So we've got your power switches and all that sort of stuff. We've got two USB connectors. This will then give you a USB on the sides, if I'm not mistaken, on the front, and then we've got the audio. So if you've got headphones or whatever the case might be, there are audio jacks on this case. So at the front of the video card we've got the HDMI, which then connects to the panel. Straightforward and simple. Only reason I took the video card out was so that I could get these things plugged in. And again, we should think about doing some form of cable management here while we've got everything open and free. And that looks fairly straightforward and neat enough. Right, so we'll use about 4 cable ties just on these cables alone, because wherever cables jump off you can just bunch those together. Now again, cable ties are fairly cheap, and whenever you buy a power supply or something like that, they normally give you quite a nice collection of them. I know Corsair definitely give you more than you need normally. With the fully modular supplies, they definitely give you more than you need, because the secret there is just not to use or not to connect in what you're not using. Alright, so that's that done. I see the main camera has gone down. The battery's probably run flat there. I'll sort it out in a minute. Alright, so right, so we've got some cable management done on that. Next thing is, let's get that video card back in. So it's a little bit of a snug fit, purely because of the double bracket there. It's got to fit into 2 holes, and you know, well, it fits nicely. Then there is this HDMI connector, which then plugs in, and that then gives you output directly to the panel, right? So what I'm noticing now is those cable ties we used a second ago, I might need to redo. Oh, there we go. So remember, this is where the fan goes, so I want to minimize restrictions and airflow in this area here as much as possible. So just tucking things away nice and neat is key. The power, we still need to get here to the 12 volt for the CPU, and then we need to sort out power for the peripherals. So let's go ahead and try and have a look. So we've got a bit of excess here. What we can do is we can try and just tuck it in between the ATX power, and then we can get it around there, bang a cable tie on the end here, and stick it away. Easy as that. Okay, so the panel is requiring 12 volts of power for some reason. obviously backlit or whatever the case might be. So I've got that here. We need to cable tie these nice and neatly, because they as well will be trying to hide them underneath here. So we'll connect it up to that one. I think what I might do for the final production version of this all-in-one, so I'm going to do custom sleeving, and I'll cut each power connector to the required length. That will ease up the burden on this cable management nightmare that we've got going on at the back here. So just one more cable tie just to hold all that nice and neatly together. And then we're just going to thread it in here. Yeah. Okay. It's neat enough. And then we're going to need to get power to the SSD. And you know, I'm looking at this now. We can maybe hide that away as well. So I'm thinking maybe we need to install the SSD the other way around, or not. No, we can make that work. Okay. And then we need to get a SATA cable into all of this nightmare here. Okay, cable management is adequate, and then we need to get a SATA all the way around to underneath the damn video card again. So once again, I now done things in a bad order, because now I'm going to struggle with the SATA cable. Thanks for the host there, Tim. Do appreciate it. Hopefully this content is something your viewers enjoy. Alright, so let's try and maneuver this SATA cable without having to unplug everything. So we can get it into that first slot pretty easily. Yeah. There we go. Now feed the cable around. Some more cable management. Now the trick for the SATA cable is that if we were clever, we could have actually fed it underneath the motherboard and come up on this gap here and come underneath. But because I'm an idiot and I'm doing it late in the game, it won't be as neat. But look, all of these things, with any prototype, with any first revision, the whole reason why you build it several times and with the several variations of it is because you need to learn. You can't expect to do anything right 100% the first time, especially with any sort of prototyping or proof of concept work. So if we just get that through there, and now we'll get that in there. Alright, so I'm not terribly happy with that SATA cable. I'd say it's the one that looks the most out of place, but nothing a cable tie can't fix. And we'll just get another cable tie underneath all of this. Right. So CPU fan is in, 12 volt power is in, ATX power in. We've got our USB 3 front panel, USB 2 front panel. The last thing we need to do now is get the fan back in place. And like I was saying in the beginning, I went with the Be Quiet because it's nice and easy. But I think the RGB might actually look pretty cool, especially if it throws a little bit of RGB out the back onto the wall or onto the workspace. I think the RGB might be the winner. And then what I also maybe want to do is put a little bit of RGB around the shroud so that it really does, and get that all hooked up onto the RGB controller. So the motherboard I'm using now doesn't actually have RGB. It's one of the boards before the RGB craze. So no real point in thinking too much about it today, I guess. Alright, so we just get the 2 screws for the fan shroud back on. So because of my cable management here now, I've made my life a little bit difficult getting that screw in again. Let's just get this light off, it's throwing a bit of glare there. Yeah, so that's the whole back. Once you actually start getting everything in, it's quite insane. You're saying the whole thing looks like fans. Yeah, you've got your video card pulling air in and pushing it out the top here. We've got this 120mm fan blowing air out. We've got this CPU fan pulling air in down over the heat, so essentially coming out there. Then we've got the power supply fan, which is basically going to be pulling the air in from the back of the shroud as well, and then just pushing it out the bottom. So it could be quite a nice little bit of airflow coming through here. What we're going to do is we're going to locate a nice easily accessible fan header, and we've got the water pump header sort of in this location. We've got the CPU optional right over here, and I think that might be the right one to go for. Otherwise we've got the chassis fan around in this position. Now we've got enough cable to get all the way around, and cable management to that position is quite user friendly as well, because we can push it nice and easily behind existing cables, right? And then underneath this heat sink over here, and plug it in. So that one's quite a nice, easy, accessible. Or when I say nice and easy accessible, I can't actually get my fingers in there because they're a bit chubby. So trusty long nose. And crikey, my eyesight now. Back with the light. So these long nose actually aren't terribly effective anymore because I've bent the tip. And poor choice. Okay, so that one's in. Poor choice for live stream. Okay, so there we go. So as you can see there, that cable, and I hope you can see, I don't know if you can see, but that cable basically just goes from the fan header underneath the heatsink, around underneath other cables, and nice and easily up to the fan shroud. So I think we've got everything. This is probably going to overheat quite quickly, but for the purposes of building the rig and switching it on, I think it might work. You know what? I'm not going to be able to stream what's happening on the screen without using HDMI splitter from the top to both streams. So we're not going to do that anything on this PC on the stream. What I wanted to do is I wanted to show you guys upgrading the BIOS without actually having the BIOS file. That's using the internet. I haven't used that functionality before, so it was going to be something I'll plan to do on the stream today, but nevertheless we won't worry too much. Now that's the machine in a nutshell built, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just doing a quick audit. Looks great. The cable management is done nicely. There's no cables that are going to be a problem here with this fan. We've got nothing in the way here. This cable is nicely tucked away for the CPU fan. SSD is plugged in, cables are nicely tucked away, and we've got our power to the panel. So the last thing we need to do now is we can get the shroud back on, and then we can get the feet in, and we can actually stand it up, and you guys might be able to have a look at it. And once I've got that done, I'll put batteries in the other camera. Yeah, so we got comments there of always wanted to see the type of build. This has been a pet project of mine for a long time. I've been wanting to get this done. I bought the prototype December already, the prototype panel, and just haven't had the time, and then trying to get the all-in-one cooler. So really I'm hoping that we can actually get a selection of these up and running and available for public comment. Alright, so the case or the shroud clips on quite nice and easily. Once you got that, there's 4 screws at the back and there are 2 screws at the top, and then we're going to screw the feet in and then we can get it out. Sure, let's get those screws in and fastened up. So another thing I've got to get done and designed and manufactured is the little like a label. I think if I use ASUS motherboards as well, I've got to include their powered by ASUS on it. I must just check up on that. So a couple of things that I'm only checking now that I never even thought about before I put the cover back on is, does the power cable for the power supply line up, and can you access the on-off switch for the power supply? Happy to report yes and yes. Okay. Okay, that one's alright, so I'm just finalizing these screws for the shroud. I've got to watch myself that I don't actually scratch anything here. Unfortunately, this is plastic, but you can't have everything. Aluminium would have been awesome, but geez, to manufacture that would have put these things out of any sort of price bracket, price range, even as they are. Okay, considering it's a 2K 32-inch screen, the price is fairly reasonable. But imagine making that shroud aluminium would have been ridiculous. So that's the finished product from behind. I'm hoping you guys can actually can see that quite nicely. It's damn big. I'm battling to maneuver it around my OC lab, around the space I've got to work on here. Video card, power supply, heat coming in, lots of space for air to come in and get out, you know, so it's got plenty of ventilation. There is also air vents on the sides, no worries there. Now let's give you a quick view, and hold on, before I do that, let me just open it up on the screen so I can see. Alright, so that's the back of the case. Now let's just lift this up so you can have a quick squiz there. Right, so we've got the power supply input here, and as you can see, you can get easily to the button and then to your power cable. The trick is as well, we're going to be shipping this with a nice power cable that you can really do some nice, it will be the 90-degree angled one, so it won't be coming straight down and really stuff up the look and see. And then you can see here you got lots of space for air to come in and to get out. Airflow is not going to be a problem here, so putting in the powerful video card, powerful processor, you really shouldn't have any problems. The last bit of nice functionality on the side here is your headphone holder. So for your graphic designer, your animator, that type of thing, where the guys have always got their headphones on, now you've got somewhere to store them. Last thing to do is the feet. Now this is the first time that I'll be putting the feet on, and it's quite straightforward. Now the feet have to go on after the shroud. So this is where you can essentially put your warranty checker or your please call support rather than opening yourself sticker. I don't like to say warranty voice sticker because all my customers have the flexibility to do whatever they want with the hardware they buy. The difference comes in is that if you break, when I put a seal on, if you break that, you're going to lose your your free labor. So if you break something or if you damage something while you are mucking about, you basically lose the free labor part of your warranty unless that sticker remains in place. So let's say you go in there and you unplug the SSD to do something and you forget to plug it in again. You then return the machine to me saying it's faulty. Well, if that sticker is damaged or if it's removed, you don't lose your manufacturer's warranty on the components, but you will lose the labor part of me resolving the issue. And I think that's fairly fair. If you are, I mean, that's my opinion. Maybe let me know if you feel differently. I'm always open to, in fact, I value feedback from my viewers and from my customers. Alright, so that's the feet in. And let's now clear the space here so we can actually have a good look. First things first, I'm going to change the camera battery so I can actually show you guys nicely how this all looks. So unfortunately I'm having to use a camera that does not work off mains and that we have to use batteries. What that means is the view, the battery dies and then you lose me. Right, so there we go. I'm back. Let's just get it nicely lined up. Okay, so let's get this opened, stood up and looked at. It weighs quite a bit. It's going to cost me a packet to ship. Alright, so I got my moving wheel out of the way. A real monster. Alright, so there we go. The big reveal. And I hope you guys, you guys can see there. Let's switch it across. So here we go. And that there is a 32-inch all-in-one machine with front USB and discrete video card. Really cool. I think we should try and turn it on. Hopefully nothing blows up. It's always embarrassing when that happens. Right, so other side, of course. Yo, it's quite a monster. Well, looks like it turned on. That's always a good step. Happy days. Whether it actually boots, I don't know. I did test the motherboard beforehand, so here's hoping. But yeah, there we go. So that's the all-in-one build. It really does look great. I'll post some pictures up on Facebook, I think, so you guys can get an understanding of what's going on here. So I'm having a look at the back. And I can see the postcodes. No, the postcodes are right around the other side. I'm not 100% sure if that video card is actually working. So the postcode we got is A0. So it might be a problem with the video card, because that is working. As far as airflow is concerned, let's just do a quick. Yeah, so no fans are turning on that video card. That's not a good sign. Got a nice little breeze coming out of the fan there. And yeah. So I think that about wraps up this build. I'm going to have to get that video card out. I think I've got a VGA. I have an HDMI extender so that I'll just be able to move that HDMI cable from the discrete video card around. Or I'll just put in a, I think I've got like a GT210 or something, just for testers I can put it in. But guys, I want to say thanks for tuning in. If you got any questions or any queries, please feel free to knock me up on Facebook. Let's just have a look quickly at the comments here. So Timothy's asking, where's RGB? Yeah, so I definitely think there's going to be RGB. There has to be, because I mean, how can all the manufacturers be wrong? This motherboard has no RGB header on it, so what's the point of putting the RGB fan in? But if you want to know where's the RGB, I've got the RGB. Does it wall mount? Does it have wall mount options like Visa? No. Okay, so this is a desk standing all-in-one machine. So where you'd normally have your wall mount fixtures at the back in the center, sort of is exactly where the PC is. So I can make it wall mountable for you. I can put a shelf in and then put it on the shelf, but no, it does not have any Visa type of fixtures. So another comment here, it looks like an old LCD TV from this angle. So the angle you've got is the front forward facing one. Yeah, so basically if you can think of a 32-inch TV, that's 32-inch 2K TV, that's exactly what this is. It's the size of a 32-inch monitor. It's absolutely freaking awesome. I would like to bring you guys and show you guys some graphics of the 2K and the resolution, stuff like that, but we'll worry about that a little bit later. I'm not going to go do any fault finding now. Today was all about just getting it built, and then I've got to have it running by Monday, so I'll have to get it up and running tomorrow. Figure out, I think it's a video card, to be 100% honest with you. I think it's a video card, because not so great, right? Right, let's have a look. Last comment is, the feet actually looked like the ones I have on my Samsung TV. Yeah, okay, I'm going to agree with you. When I squint and look at it sideways, it definitely looks like that. I'm just kidding. Yeah, you know what, I have seen those, what's the other make that I've seen? The Hisense, I think it is. It's a locally manufactured LCD TV. And they also seem to have that like a double footprint. It's very similar. I think it's just like a typical universal design. Personally, I would have liked the sort of center column that comes out with the two nice feet. But you know what, we didn't have a lot of options when it came to the specifications we wanted and the price we wanted for an all-in-one machine, because you know, at the end of the day, you still got to be competitive to what a case, like a case and screen would have cost at the end of the day. But yeah, let's just not talk about that too much. That'll bore you guys into a little nap. No, I don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and say thanks for tuning in. I'm going to try and do another stream tomorrow if my daughter allows it, and then yeah, I'm away for the week for a contract down in Cape Town. So if you are in Cape Town, you want to hook up for a cup of coffee or something like that, let me know, and we can be in touch. Otherwise, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you got any suggestions or comments, don't forget to send me a message, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, until then, happy benching. End scene. Bye bye. Alright, thanks guys. I'm out.